All right, this is Liz Entwistle. We're back in action at the North American Sevens, at North American Invitational, rather, I should say, at the Regional Athletic Complex here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Kicking off with the boys U18 elite action. We have the Atavus Selects in red and Herriman Rugby local Utah's team here in the red and the blue hoops. So Atavus, the red and white on their jerseys. And we're bringing it back. There's a free kick to Herriman. And looking to kick it through. I am joined here in the booth with local legend Ashley Burge. Welcome, Ashley.
Hi. We
just saw Ashley running touch in the game earlier, providing her services as an assistant referee in the Utah game against Upright. What was your take on the action, Ash?
It's a different view of the game for sure. I mean, I've played and I've been around the game for a long time, and I've watched and I've played, but I've never really ran from the sideline. So it was a good game. Both girls played well, and I run here with the Utah Lions girls. I practice with them in my off season, so it was awesome to see them in action.
And you played your high school rugby here at Snow Canyon, is that correct?
Herriman, actually.
You did, you played at Herriman. I've been staying Snow Canyon all day. I'm glad you're here then. So what insight can you give us on this Herriman boys team?
Well, what's kind of crazy is that there's some boys on this team that have been playing on the varsity side of sports since they were freshmen in high school. So while I was still in high school, I mean, boys like Tomasi Tonga and Sione Bloomfield have been playing on the varsity side of sports since they were freshmen and and still in middle school. So it's pretty cool to see them still here, their senior side, still representing.
And we see them with an early try under the post here, taking advantage then of getting that free kick and being able to go downfield. It was their number 12, I believe, with the try under the post, looking for the conversion, see if they can go ahead 7-0 early in this match. This boys elite competition, we've seen some fantastic games so far today. We saw both U17 and U19 Atlantis teams victorious. We saw the Utah Lions win their game against Upright. We saw the Utah Lions women win their game against Upright as well. Just some fantastic action here on field one, but just one of 4 fields that are running here for the North American Invitational, over 40 teams. So when you were playing high school rugby here in Utah, how many girls teams were there?
My very first year there was only 4 teams, and so we just kept playing each other over and over and over again, but it grew as to my senior year. I'd say we got to about 10 teams, and now it's just incredible. I mean, this facility as well, this wasn't here while I was in high school. We were playing in a park where, sometimes the lines weren't even on the field and we didn't even have uprights. So it's just incredible to see how much it's grown since I've come back.
There's a great catch over the shoulder there by the number 9 from Atavus and making his break downfield, looking for his teammates and support for the offload. Not quite there, so now we've got Herriman pressuring on attack. And now with the Herriman boys and girls, did you guys practice together at all? Were your teams tightly connected? I know that they've had a lot of success with their boys team and that they've won multiple state championships. They said 2 times with 7s, 3 times with 15s, reigning state champions this year, and that they've actually placed as high as 3rd in the nation at the NIT. So they do a high school boys invitational in Charlotte. They went in 2015, but didn't go this year.
Well, when I was in high school, the boys team were under the school, so they were allowed to call themselves the Herriman Mustangs. They were allowed to practice at Herriman, to play at the field. But my first year, we were not, as Herriman girls, under Herriman High School, so we were Herriman City. So we weren't even associated with the guys. We weren't necessarily associated with the school, with anything. That didn't happen until my junior year. So then we started practicing with the guys. Their coaches would help us at practice, but before then, it was like we were in 2 complete different worlds.
So getting back to the action here, it was at number 9, Preston from Atavus, that set up a fantastic run. Atavus scoring a try, looking to equalize via the kick earlier for Herriman. It was that Tomasi Tonga that you mentioned with the try. They converted their kick, so it's currently 7-5, pending this drop kick attempt right in front of the post. This is Alex McDonald from Atavus, and he slots it 9-9. Ashley, I mean, we know you quite well, having played on multiple Stars tours. You're quite the kicker yourself. What do you do? What is your kicking routine?
Well, every kicker's got something a little bit different. I would say, it's a step back 3 and 1 to the left. That's what works for me, but if you notice, everybody does something a little bit different. And it varies from doing a drop kick and a conversion kick off of a tee, so.
And remember, you won us that game against the Northeast ODA playing in the Las Vegas Invitational this year when we won 7-5 with the Stars Rugby Sevens facing off. And we had quite the pool there. We played against the Atlantis women, so Atlantis has their youth teams here. And then we got to face off against Rugby Canada, and that was quite the match.
Yeah, it was an intense game. It was a lot higher pace than I think we were expecting.
But you guys held them. You went down early, came back, scored a couple tries, and then came within inches on that final Erica Fowler chip and chase downfield that just barely dribbled out. So falling 17-12 to Team Canada with their current Olympians on the field is nothing to feel ashamed about.
Yeah, I definitely don't think any of us were complaining the way that we played that game, especially, we had a pretty unexperienced side, so it was good for us to show out.
Yeah, it's kind of like a lot of the teams in the tournament here. You know, we had that Stars team where we had players come in with experience playing in Australia, in Fiji, in Canada, and the USA. So we had 4 different countries represented there, trying to like gel and make the most of like 4 days of training ahead of the tournament. We've had some of these teams here. Herriman being a single school team, so obviously knows each other well. Where it's Atavus that actually is coming from multiple schools, and it seems like across the divisions, there's very few teams that are just that single school.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, some of the local teams here, Herriman, the Utah Lions, they practice year-round, so they have an upper end against some of these other teams like Atavus that gets brought back together, you know, just a couple days before the tournament. And I've been on both sides. You know, I've made some All-American tours where it's you come together a week before tournament, and it's difficult to mold together. I mean, some tours it's easy, some tours it's hard, and so, you know, you never know what to expect when you see a select side coming in.
Yeah, so speaking of, we mentioned it earlier in the broadcast, you played high school girls All-Americans, you played women's junior All-Americans, and now women's college All-Americans. We saw you play the Elite City Sevens with the women's collegiate All-Americans, winning the first iteration of that tournament, beating the ARPTC in the final there. Well, how was that experience? Because a couple of your teammates are now playing in the Olympics from that squad, correct?
Yes, and it's so awesome. And I mean, and some of those girls that I played with there, I'm now playing with in college, and we're actually getting back together, the College All-American Sevens team here in August 20th in Glendale. That'll be the second time that our Sevens team has got together. So I'm excited to see. Brandon Sparks is the coach, and he has told me we're going to have a little bit of a younger squad. We're still going to have, you know, about 5 of us stronger side girls that have been there, been in the pool, and he's bringing some girls up. So it'll be interesting to see how we still, you know, compete in that. It's going to be a very high quality tournament, we'll say.
Absolutely. I just remember watching that game last year too, and you had people on the field like Nicole Strasko, who ended up getting her first cap here literally at this field, playing for USA in the Women's Super Series, and she's someone that had been pretty new to rugby, had only been playing for about 2 years coming to Life University. But it's so different here watching these young men playing with so much experience. You know, so you talk about these Herriman guys that were playing varsity rugby when they were in 6th, 7th grade or so, and now coming in with 6 years of experience and then going to college, whereas a lot of people have picked up the game later. You were at Davenport where you had a lot of experienced teammates too, and now going to Central Washington, similarly the same. You're going to see a little bit of the difference between Midwest and West Coast rugby. Anything in particular you're looking forward to with the change of venue?
I think the biggest thing is just the expectations held a little bit higher, and you know, it's really going to challenge me. Where at Davenport we had a team, we had a really solid team, but it was, you know, at Central Washington there's 46 girls trying to make a roster of 15, and so at Davenport we had about 20 girls, and so I expected to play. Whereas at Central, I'm really going to have to fight for a spot, and I'm really going to have to step up, and I think that that's going to challenge me as a person and as a player, and I think that that's going to be an awesome experience for me.
Are you still going to lead the additional conditioning sessions you're doing with your Davenport teammates? I saw you flipping tires and doing burpees and all this extra training, you know, on your own, not even in the gym on campus, but really using the elements. Is that something you're looking to carry over? Or?
I definitely would. It's just that we have, you know, Greg Telexan is a great head coach there, but he was our only help at the time, and so I really just wanted to step up and help our girls. But Central's got quite a big staff, and they do a lot of, I've seen them waking up at 5:30 in the morning to go do team conditioning, so I don't think I'm necessarily going to have to.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've had quite a few players from Central Washington play on some of our Stars Tour, and a lot of them have played with Atavus as well. It's a team that, you know, lost narrowly to BYU in the D1 Elite West final, and the D1 Elite looking to kind of rebuild their tournament a bit this year. I know that some teams are moving on, moving up. And from what I understand, Central Washington's actually moving into the NIRA conference where they're playing against all the varsity NCAA teams. So now they're embracing their NCAA status, and it's going to provide, you know, the really deep opportunities playing in the fall. But you're going to be on the road quite a bit.
Yeah, most definitely.
I say everyone's on the East Coast.
Yeah, they travel coast to coast, that's for sure. It's worth it though to play good rugby.
That is excellent. So some good rugby ahead of us here. We saw Herriman score another try. They are up 14-7. We are in the stoppage time of the first half. The game's not going to end until the referee says that his clock is up and there has to be an actual break in the play. It looks like he's indicating for a penalty, but we'll see what Tassi's calling here. He's calling halftime. So Herriman going up 14-7 into the half against Atavus. Worth noting that this Atavus roster is a little bit lighter. They have 10 players compared to the 12 that Herriman has. Atavus bringing together players from all over the country, players generally from Washington, a lot from Colorado. On the women's side, we see some girls from Minnesota. Actually, a player that is based in Shanghai on the women's team as well. But of course, Atavus coach Sean Pittman going to make adjustments here at halftime. An experienced player in his own right, capped many times for the Eagles in 15s, a prop that played both here in the U.S. with what was then Seattle OPSB, then went over and played, I believe, with Northampton over in England. but a veteran of the 2011 World Cup. So probably at some point in his career would have played some matches here. We'll say hello to our other favorite assistant referee, Coach Baha. Baha Sikia, another Eagles legend, played inside the centers, played in the World Cup back in 2007, was partnered up with Paul Emmerich in the centers, and one of our Stars coaches as well.
Nice, nice.
I'm a big fan of seeing a lot of our Stars family out here giving back. We see Josie Zaloka coaching with the Atavus side, and of course the fact that we're sharing all these players with so many other teams too. So it's like, we're going on a tour, great, play this one. And then Atavus goes, like they did Fiji last year. We don't go to Fiji, so we can send players there. The same thing with Atlantis. They've done Spain and Fiji their own. So just great collaboration. And we saw this the other night too, because Atavus trained at the same field as the Utah Lions, as well as the Cedar Park team from Texas. We saw the women's Utah Lions, the Utah Barbarians, so some of the Cannibals players, and then also the Atavus women there. So at one point there were 7 teams all sharing a field, working together, scrimmaging each other, and it just seems something like it's great that rugby in Utah has fostered so much and has opened itself up to hosting so much. So Ashley, have you actually gotten your referee certification or coaching certification in terms of, we're talking about giving back, are those things down the road?
Down the road.
10, 15 years from now when you...
Definitely down the road. My degree is exercise science and nutrition, and so this is what I want to do and want to be around. The Utah Lions, I said I trained with here. Their coaching staff really had a big part in creating this tournament, make sure things ran smoothly, and they needed some help on the AR, and so he called me and he said, Ashley, do you have your reffing certification? And I was like, well, no. And he's like, you know what, at this point, I don't even care. We need help. So he knows I know the game well enough, so it's not like I'm a stranger out there on the sideline, and you know, it's a great experience for me.
I can't ever recall you as a player getting a yellow card for talking back to the refs, so I think that speaks well in terms of your knowledge of the game. So at least no game that I've seen. You're giving me a little bit of a look there. So we'll kick off the second half of action here. Herriman has to be happy leading over in Atavus select side coming together, but again, Herriman with the advantages of playing together and quite a deep roster. They've got their full 12, if not even a couple more. I know there are a couple teams out here that listed as many as 15, but some notable names that were brought up to me by their coaching staff too was that Sione Bloomfield that you mentioned, I believe a relative of Eagle legend Henry Bloomfield, longtime player with Belmont Shore, a huge number 8, just a rattling player, and then Tomasi Tango wearing the number 12 jersey. And we enjoyed watching Tayson Hammer play earlier before. We thought he lived up to his surname, hammering the ball downfield. So we'll look for the second half here. Of course, it's either team's game. Just a 1-try difference between this Atavus and Herriman team. And if there's any player to watch on this Atavus, it is their number 11. He had a couple of magnificent tries, as well as a try-saving tackle in their earlier match when they were playing against the Atlantis team. So he is on our watch list as the tournament goes on.
It's awesome to see these Herriman boys play as well. My brother was on the very first ever Herriman rugby team, and their coaching staff is still the same coaching staff today that was there. My brother's 24 now, and he was on the very first ever Herriman rugby team. So it's awesome to see how much they've grown, but their core structure and their core leadership is still around.
Yeah, I think I was looking over their coaching notes at one point too, and they were saying, how long they've been around, but like just the depth of the amount of coaches they have, and yeah, it's impressive definitely. When you have people that can focus. Then, if you have a coach, a head coach that can delegate, focus on defense, focus on lineouts, focus on the set pieces, focus on kicking too.
It helps a lot. I've experienced that, or having one coach try to coach the forwards, the backs, the defense, the offense, everything. It gets a little clustered, and all points don't get covered. So it's awesome to see the depth that they have in the coaching staff, and a lot of teams have nowadays.
So we see a Herriman put it on their scrum deep inside their own territory, and that's good pressure from the Atavus scrum half. That's Alex McDonald wearing the number 6 jersey. But Herriman maintaining possession of the ball. And a little bit of a dummy switch there in the middle of the field, and now they're going to go back inside. That is a well-executed, well-scripted play, but there is this number 11 we've been talking about for Atavus. That number 11, that is Enzo Stein. He's quick, but not quite quick enough, and it is Herriman in for another try, courtesy of their number 11, Preston Miranda.
I'm sure it's the same with these other teams, but I know a lot of these Herriman boys, they train year-round. They play football, they play rugby, and their coaches here, their rugby coaches are their football coaches, and so, they're always on their A game, they're always training, they're always going, so it's awesome to, that it definitely shows on the field.
It's great to have a collaboration too, like looking at more schools that are really embracing rugby as one of their real legitimate teams, like how you kind of touched on before. And having the support of a football program can certainly bolster rugby teams. We see a lot of athletes coming, from soccer, basketball, wrestling, kind of depending on the time of year because it's so different all around the country too. I mean, you're familiar with our split season schedule in the Midwest and plenty of games in the hail and the snow and everything. And then you come out here and you're like, wow, this is 100 degrees. And then you go to Central where it's never going to get too cold, but you're going to have kind of that rainier climate there.
It's definitely different playing in Michigan where before practice we're on the field with shovels, taking off feet of snow and just begging for it to be over, whereas we come here and it's been 104 degrees this week, so.
That's where we think there really is a little bit of a home field, hometown advantage for these Utah sides. They're used to the altitude, they're used to this heat because it has been so warm for so long. And then, sometimes it's, it can go either way. It's nice sleeping in your own bed, but then when you have these teams coming together, it's also nice being with your team. But, having a good home-cooked meal and the support of your family and friends.
The elevation is definitely going to be a butt kicker for some of these teams that aren't used to it. I mean, being in Michigan and then coming back home, the elevation is, it is a crazy difference. And I really, having experienced that training there, being in shape and coming here and I feel like I'm out of shape, it makes a big difference.
Well, it looks like this elevation isn't affecting this Atavus player at all. That is their number 4 with a breakaway. I unfortunately can't quite read the name. I think Jeremiah Seo. If you want to take a glance at that. Sean Pittman was good enough to give us a quick roster here. I believe Jeremiah Seo there, number 4 on the outside with the long breakaway. And he certainly was impressive at practice the other night. He's got that hair. He's going to be a junior threat in Palamo here with the way he's looking. Who I think they're all Troy Polamalu there.
It's a high fashion trend with rugby to have some crazy hair. Sometimes seems like it's competition more so than the game.
I think if there's anyone that won out of your women's college All-American Sevens team, it was Nicole Benedetti with her blue hair last year.
Oh, it's still blue, don't worry. She's always got something going on and, it works for her.
So it looks like we do have a try awarded. There's a little conference between the referees on the far side of the field. So it is Atavus with a try. Currently 21-12 with about 2 minutes left in the game. Plenty of time, but they do need to get 2 scores if they're looking to pull ahead here. Herriman going to be guarding their lead. I'm sure they wouldn't mind scoring another try, but of course it is the win that is most important overall. With these men's elite bracket, we've got 11 teams in action. 8 teams will make it to the Cup quarterfinals. The bottom 3 will play off all against each other in a round robin for the Bull. And it's kind of rare when you're looking at high school rugby too to have these 2-day tournaments. They're pretty few and far between.
Yeah, there's a big number of team years. The fact that we have 4 fields going is just kind of crazy. I've been playing at college tournaments and we don't even have this many teams, this many people just come through and just really want to play.
Yeah, we were looking at the estimated attendance for the weekend, and I think that Visit Salt Lake may have underestimated. They thought there might be 1,000 people coming through, but we have over 500 players alone at this tournament. So looking at the family and friends and support, we've got a little bit of an umbrella village across the field here with everyone keeping out of the sun. Some good support. Atavus did make their kick, so it's currently 21-14. Clock is stopped, getting a ball back onto the field. It's going to be an Atavus restart. So it is a 1-try game with 1 minute and 47 seconds left to go.
What's awesome about this tournament is, all these games are super close. It's not like we've had any, there may be some, but, for the most part, these are pretty intense games. It's fun to watch. It's fun to be here.
Yeah, we had a couple of pretty big score lines earlier in the day. There's like a 38-10, a 36-10, but since then it really has settled down. I'm a little bit surprised that this referee let him toe it through the mark so far away from where he was indicating the mark, and it looks like he's reaching for a card here going down to his socks. This could be a big game changer. If there's a yellow card shown, there's 2 minutes and a yellow card in 7. This would be for the remainder of the game. We saw a couple yellow cards earlier, but that was at the U14 level. I think this is the first card in the U18 level. So a yellow shown to Herriman. This is going to give Atavus a 1-man advantage to close out the game. 1 minute and 21 seconds to go. They've got the penalty as well, about 35 meters from the goal line.
And Tomasi Tonga getting that yellow, that's a big takeaway from Herriman. He's a very strong player and has been making a pretty big difference in this game. So
I think they had mentioned perhaps one of 3 Herriman players that have done some activity with the high school All-Americans on the boys' side.
Yes. He's been around, I think, with the high school All-Americans twice now. And he's one of those players that, has been playing all sorts of varsity sports since he was ever eligible.
Oh, this is fantastic from Herriman. Their defense causing the knock on to Atavus, and they come away with the ball. So advantage was shown, but advantage gained, of course, being so short in the game of 7s. Looking at 50 seconds left on the clock here. So you have to look at a bit of your game clock management, but also the fact that they did have it's a great breakaway and a great opportunity where they could score and really put the game away. We're going to see a scrum to Atavus, but they gained all that, meterage, I was going to say yardage, downfield. So scrum to Atavus, and again, the clock is still running. 30 seconds left to go in the game. It'll be an Atavus put in. They're about 30 meters from their own in goal. If you're Utah, right now with Tomasi being out, they have to figure out how they're going to sort their scrum. So I don't know if this is an intentional delay of game here, or, well, clock was off, so they're going to make their substitutions. They're going to sort out their numbers, but the clock is now stopped according to the ref. So just a reminder too, not that we have a clock here on the screen, we do have a scoreboard, but the scoreboard, the official time being kept by our referee in the middle of the field. So again, it is still Herriman with 6 men, so they only have 2 backs covering against Atavus with full 3 to attack. This is a crucial scrum for the Herriman team if they want to make sure that they come out of this game with a solid win. And it is Herriman that looks like they've stolen possession of the ball.
It's the game changer right there.
But knocked on by the scrum half in possession. That was their Herriman number 9, Tayson Hammer. So one of 2 Hammer brothers out there on the field. His brother Carson as well, that would be in the number 22. So we see Carson at 22 at prop, Tayson at scrum half. And of course, official time from the referee. Another put in by Atavus. We're going to look at Herriman to try the same exact thing where they drive over. They've stolen the ball. And they're maintaining possession. It looks like they're looking for this final try. That's number 7 from Herriman taking into contact. Levi Hunt, we saw him make a presence early in the game. They've got the overload outside. With 6 players on the field, have the overload, and that is that Hammer brother hammering in this final try, putting the hammer in the coffin against Atavus. I'm going to keep going with all these Hammer puns here. But a great job, Carson Hammer. I'm not even sure how Herriman created that overload, but well done to them. Getting in a final try here, taking the win against Atavus. We'll pending a kick here. And Ashley, I'll let you go with any thoughts about how that try happened. It's a surprise when you're shorthanded to be able to score like that.
Being a man down, especially the last couple minutes of the game, it's really difficult to step up and make something like that happen. I mean, I'm sure everyone out there is gassed, and so it really took a lot in those boys just to create the overload.
I think that both Matt and I are appreciating the efforts of the front row there in the scrum to steal 2 scrums away and take away all the possession and the momentum from Atavus there at the end when Atavus did have the attacking chance. It was great defense by Herriman that opened up opportunities. Kick is missed, so it's going to be a 26-14 in favor of Herriman. So that puts Atavus, well, from what we've seen on this field, at 0-2 on the day. Ashley, thanks so much for stopping in. We hope you coming back in later. Some of the Utah girls games later, we could provide some valuable insight.
Yep, for sure. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.